The acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia has announced a special review of January 6 cases and has asked DOJ officials to hand over all files, documents, notes, emails, and other information about decisions to bring obstruction charges against hundreds of alleged rioters. Joining us now, NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley. What's the significance of this?
Sure. So it's, again, sort of the investigators thing. And I think, big picture here, what you have to remember is who the current head, the acting attorney general for, or rather the acting U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia is. His name's Ed Martin, and he was a January 6 advocate. He actually spoke at fundraiser for January 6 defendants. He was on the board of the Patriot Freedom Project. He had appeared with Donald Trump at one of these events, and he's someone who spread conspiracy theories about January 6th and was, against these prosecutions sort of from the beginning. So now he's in charge of the entire office and is overseeing all of the prosecutors who are bringing these cases that he has, been sort of fighting against for, I suppose, for the past several years. So that's sort of the context that comes into that. And now he's asking some people within the office to look into this, for everyone to turn over their notes. And the idea here is that they're going to be looking into this use of the obstruction charge, which is the one that was examined by the Supreme Court, which disagreed with the Justice Department's use of it in some of these particular cases. But, I think the big picture here is what you have to keep in mind is just who this person is who is ordering this in the first place, Katie, and what this sort of means going forward when you have all of these prosecutors who just last week had to sign off on dismissal notices for cases they knew full well they could prove beyond a reasonable doubt in court, and in many cases that they did prove beyond a reasonable doubt. They did prove beyond a reasonable doubt in court involving cases against defendants who brutalized police officers last week. So that's sort of the context that those dismissals from last week are coming in as this note was sent out to the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. Today, Katie.
Investigate the investigators. Ryan Riley, thank you very much. Joining us now, host of Radio Atlantic and the We Live Here Now podcast that explored the Justice for January 6 movement, Hanna Rosin. Her most recent episode is titled "Even Some January 6ers Don't Agree with Trump's Blanket Pardon." Hanna, it is so interesting, the position that you found yourself in, living down the street from this, this safe house, this place where sympathizers, the wives of January 6 prisoners, convicts, violent convicts, were living and hoping that at some point they would see their loved ones again. Toward the end of the podcast, they seem to be giving up that hope, understanding that what their loved ones did was really very serious and that maybe they should start to move on. Fast forward just a few months, and now they're all free. What's that been like?
I mean, possibly the most dramatic thing that Donald Trump did in his first day came home to us in our neighborhood in Washington, D.C., very quickly, which is that I was walking past the safe house that you described, and one of the people I know there was standing outside, and he said, "Oh, Stuart's inside." And I said, "Stuart who?" And he said, "Stuart Rhodes." Now, Stuart Rhodes, people might remember as the guy with the eye patch who was arrested around January 6th. He was arrested on and he convicted of some of the most serious charge, which is seditious conspiracy. And there he was taking a nap down the block from my house. So it really was in stark relief. The day before he was in prison, he was released, and now he's taking a nap a block down from my house.
These are people who either have, were charged with conspiracy, seditious conspiracy, the most serious charge that you can get in this country, or they're people who were charged with violent crimes, really assaulting a police officer, spraying bear spray in their face, hitting them over the head with their own batons, trying to crush them in a door, some really ugly stuff. And they're walking free, and some of them are coming to the house down the street from you. I wonder, does the neighborhood feel threatened? I mean, these are guys that went after the system of government when Donald Trump didn't win. And D.C. is a pretty democratic place. Did the neighborhood feel good about this?
Maybe betrayed is the right word. I mean, these are all things that you described. They happened in our city, not far from the neighborhood where we live. Also, in a different world, this could have happened in a more orderly fashion because there is a whole range of violations. So there are some that are not violent. There are some that are medium. There are some that are pretty violent, all the way up to seditious conspiracy and being the founder of the Oath Keepers, who Stewart Rhodes was. So I think the fact that everybody was let out just created a mass sense of chaos. I mean, outside the D.C. jail last week became a gathering place for a lot of released J6ers from different parts of the country. And that was weird to see because that's not all that far from the Capitol either. So it's been a very stark reversal for those of us who live here.
I bet. You also found that some of the folks that were gathered didn't really think it was a good idea. Even the sympathizers didn't think it was a good idea to release everybody. What'd they say to you?
I think they, too, some of the supporters of the January 6ers and their family, they in their heads do make distinctions between, say, their husband or their son and people who they think of as having committed seriously violent crimes. I don't know that those distinctions are always valid, but I think it's hard to think of, say, someone you love as in the same category, as someone who was convicted of seditious conspiracy and is the founder of the Oath Keepers. You know, so even among J6ers, they were not only surprised, they were maybe not all that happy that everyone had received the same treatment as if they were all the same.